Now, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Moosey Gaming here, and today, as we have Sun Tzu Prime now into the mix, and as you guys can see, I have uploaded the image of Sun Tzu Prime here. We're gonna do what we do every time that we get a new commander, especially the field fighting commander, and that is create the Rise of Kingdoms best of the best tier list for open field meta. Obviously, this is going to be prediction because we don't actually have Sun Tzu Prime in the game yet. Well, we have him in the game, but we haven't had a chance to have him, unlock him. No one actually had a chance to actually play around with Sun Tzu Prime yet. But based on the information that we have found online, as well as reading through his skill descriptions and everything, I think we have a pretty clear understanding of what Sun Tzu Prime does. If you guys haven't already done so, please go ahead and check out other channels' videos as well to kind of find out what he does and all that stuff. There's plenty of videos out there. But with that said, let's just go ahead and put together a tier list like we do always. Now, before we begin, we're going to go ahead and explain how the tier list actually works. Now, at the very, very top, we're going to have triple S tier, and this is the one god of Rise of Kingdoms. Now, there's going to be only one commander of all commanders of Rise of Kingdoms that can actually be in triple S tier, right? This is the one god of Rise of Kingdoms by definition, right? And then we have SS tier. We have the best of each troop type. If we were to choose one commander out of all the commanders in each of those troop type, what could be the one single best commander that you'll be able to find in Rise of Kingdoms? So, for example, for like Siege March, what is the best commander in Rise of Kingdoms for Engineering Commander, right? What is the best commander in Cavalry Commander? What is the best commander in Archer Commander? What is the best commander in Infantry Commander? And after we're done with SS2 C tier, we're going to most likely go ahead and bump up the best commander in Rise of Kingdoms to S tier, basically. But yeah, that's just basically how the S tier and the SS tier and the triple S tier works. S tier just means that the best commander pairing. So if we have, let's say the best commander pairing was Nevsky Joan of Arc Prime. There's no way that Nevsky Joan of Arc Prime will be the best commander pairing in Rise of Kingdoms. But let's just say that that's the case. Then, if Nevsky is the best commander in the Rise of Kingdoms, and then you want to put the best pairing of that commander to the S tier, that's basically how that works, right? So there's only one commander that is possible to land in SS tier or S tier, as well as S tier, because S tier is supposed to be the best commander pairing in Rise of Kingdoms for your double S or triple S tier, right? So that's basically how S tiers work. Now, I have simplified this tier list so that it is actually a lot simpler. So A tier just means that second best commander alternative. That means that if you were to run 2 marches, what will be the best commander that will be in that pairing, right? And then B tier works the same way. It's going to be the second best pairing. So from any of the S tiers to B tier, there's going to be only one commander per each troop type, right? So there's going to be only 4 commanders of each troop type from there onward. And then from there onward, I feel like in 2026, anything beyond your second march is really not recommended. So anywhere beyond that, I would say just not recommended in 2026. Just because, if you have 2 commander of each troop type, even if you're running 7th March, you already know that 7th March is not going to be really that effective, in my opinion. So yeah, if you have your best troop types, 2 commander pairings in the best troop type for each troop type, then I think you're already set. So that's why I have put C tier as not recommended in 2026. If you feel differently about it, feel free to let me know. But that's basically how we're going to go ahead and go about it. And then D tier just means that do not use it. Now, I have pulled up every commander that I think is relevant for open field in Rise of Kingdoms. in Legendary Commanders section. Let's just check one more time. Yeah, I don't think there's any other commander that is like really relevant. And maybe I'll just put in like a Sun Tzu in the preseason or conquest tier list because Sun Tzu is a very strong commander. So okay, so let's just get started. We're gonna start off all the way from the top. Double S tier, the best commander of each troop type. Let's just start from the easiest one, Qin Shi Huang, right? Qin Shi Huang is the best commander in archers. I think there's no doubt about it. If anyone disagrees with you that the Qin Shi Huang is the best commander in archers, you're out of your mind, I think. You're out of your mind. So, yes, Qin Shi Huang obviously is the best commander in archer troop type. There's no one else better than Qin Shi Huang. Period, right? Does anyone disagree? From the live chat, does any of you guys disagree? No? Going once, going twice, let's go. Now, going into infantry. Well, let's start from cavalry, right? There's 2 candidates, I think, that could make it to S tier. Maybe 3 candidates, right? There could be Arthur, there could be Achilles, there could be GG, right? Personally speaking, I think Achilles is probably the only candidate that can make it to SS tier. The only reason why Arthur or GG is even contender for the S tier is because they're good pairing for Achilles. So Achilles, I think, deserves to be in the SS tier, in my opinion. Because multiple things. One, he does circular AoE 2000 damage factor that triggers 10 combo attacks if you hit all 5 commanders. Also, at the same time, you're getting 15% damage reduction from anything that is not basically pincer. And also at the same time, every other skill cycle almost, you'll be able to proc the Achilles AoE. Achilles is broken, guys. Achilles is broken. So I think Achilles is that one commander that has revived all cavalry. And that's why I would say Achilles is the only one that deserves to be in the SS tier. By definition, the best of each troop type for cavalry. Anyone disagrees? If not, we'll go ahead and move on. Now, before we go on to infantry, because I think that's going to be the most arguable section, I would say the best for siege is actually just sealed. The best commander for siege is just Gonzalo. The Gonzalo is the only commander in siege that basically makes siege really work, right? If you use him with Margaret, it works. If you use it with John, it kind of works. Its best pairing probably isn't those two, but like, you know, Gonzalo is the only commander that can do range AoE smite damage, and that is just truly amazing. So I would say Gonzalo deserves to be in the double S tier. Now, for the best commander for infantry, there's 3 candidates, I think. Baichu, Sun Tzu Prime, and Liu Che. Baichu, Sun Tzu Prime, and Liu Che. All of them are best commander in troop type contender. Personally speaking, I think Sun Tzu Prime does deserve to be up here. Now, we don't know too much of the whole kit and what he does and how the true damage works and all that, but just from the fact that he does 3000 smite damage, single target smite damage, and the fact that he will do at least 900 true damage on top of that, just from that fact, I think Sun Tzu Prime does deserve to be placed above those 2 commanders, in my opinion. And the fact that it has a chance to proc multiple times I think they that makes him kind of deserves to be in the top position, in my opinion. I don't know if anyone disagrees with it, but personally, from the outlook of it, I would predict that Sun Tzu Prime will be at the top of the top within infantry. I don't think there's really much. I don't think anyone would actually disagree with that. Now, among those, we'll go on and come back to the SS tier in terms of the well, I would say locations of them. Well, let's do that later, because that would actually mean that I'll have to promote the triple S tier right now, right? Let's go ahead and move on to the best commanded pairing, right? The best commanded pairing. I would say Qin Shi Huang. The best commanded pairing right now is YSG, but because YSG can be both here and here, I'll just put him at the pre-SOC. YSG, expertise YSG will give not only 50% extra skill damage that buffs up more than 10,000 damage factor guaranteed of Qin Shi Huang, he also has relic up to level 3. 3-tier relic that will give him up to 62% skill damage. YSG added with Qin Shi Huang is just broken. And that's why most people on the field would use Qin Shi Huang YSG. Although there is a very strong contender alternative, which is actually Zhuge Liang. So yeah, I'll just go ahead and put YSG here. There will be no archer commander here though, for that reason. So we just go ahead and live with that. But okay, so that's basically Qin Shi Huang YSG. Arthur. Now, a lot of people might argue that Kangam-chan is better than Arthur. But personally, from using Arthur, now I don't have Kangam-chan expertise. I don't. But personally, from using Arthur on the field, and the fact that it is the only commander that can do double AoE, and the fact that the damage factor of Arthur is kind of insane, if you guys think about it. This is I know that this is a conic AoE, but this is 2800 damage factor AoE, right? If you hit 3 targets with this is more than, what, 5800 damage factor? Yeah, this AoE that Arthur has is crazy. And only on top of that, this skill right here, Arthur's expertise, actually have a chance of proccing so much with Achilles' AoE, circular AoE that has 10 times, that it is absolutely crazy the amount of damage that this commander can do with Achilles. So by definition, I think Arthur still is the best commander pairing for Achilles, and does deserve to be in the S tier, in my opinion. Personally thinking, I know that a lot of you might think that Kangam-chan is a better alternative, but I personally think that Arthur Achilles is the best commander pairing in Rise of Kingdoms. I don't think anyone would actually disagree with that. I think a lot of people would just think that Kangam-chan is better commander, just in general. But I think Arthur is a better commander in general. Arthur's expertise is just the only skill within the AoE commander pairing that we have that would actually be able to proc infinitely, right? And that's what really completes combo. And I think that's why Arthur deserves to be in the S tier instead of Kangam-chan at this very moment. Now, with that said, let's go ahead and move on to infantry. I think this is kind of difficult because there's going to be 2 contenders for the best pairing for Sun Tzu Prime, right? There's going to be Bai Qu and there's going to be Liu Che. Now, Liu Che, they both have really different mechanics when it comes to working with Sun Tzu. But let's just go on and go to infantry, right? If you look at Sun Tzu Prime's active skill, right? When you get military stage, And then this is a duration of 5 seconds, right? When you get military rate, let's go ahead and take a look at it from the expertise, right? When you get in military stage, and it takes like it actually can proc the AoE of the true damage for 5 seconds, right? Because you enter military stage for 5 seconds. Yeah, it says military stage effect for 5 seconds. In the meantime, if you can proc any smite damage into his kit, this would actually proc that true damage, 900 extra damage factor true damage, every time you trigger any sort of smite damage, right? Now, Liu Che is a good commander because he has not only the combo damage that could proc the where's the smite damage? Where's the smite damage factor here? Yeah, proc the smite damage factor that he has on his third skill. But the smite damage factor on the third skill also have a pretty short cooldown of 5 seconds. So, in that sense, Liu Che has probably one of the most consistent proccing that you can actually provide for Sun Tzu as a pairing for Sun Tzu Prime. But the only problem with that is that this skill right here, the fact that every auto attack has 25% chance to launch one combo attack, is not really a smite damage. So that's the only downside of it. But aside from that, I think Liu Che could be a really, really consistent DPS pairing for Sun Tzu Prime. Now, if you look at Bai Qi though, Bai Qi does not have any instant proc combo, a smite damage that you can actually proc with auto attack. But Bai Qi also has something called Malice effect, right? When you're attacking a troop on the map, you get 10 stacks of Malice effect whenever it uses an active skill. And then if the number of stacks is higher than the percentage of unit remaining, it spends 10 Malice stacks to deal smite damage, right? This Malice stack, I think once you can actually gather enough Malice stacks in a ball, I think Bai Qi would be able to actually proc this skill a lot more and a lot more consistently because it has 1 second cooldown versus Liu Che's third skill having 5 second cooldown. Now, going back to Bai Chi's third skill, I think this skill right here, the fact that it has more potential for it to proc that 900 true damage factor a lot more often than Liu Che in general, I would actually give more points on that for Bai Qi. Now, that doesn't mean that it's more consistent than Liu Che because you have to actually have Malice stacks on you. But because that 900 true damage, the reward is so high, if you're hitting 900 damage true damage every time you actually have a Malice stack smite damage proc, I think Bai Qi is a better commander pairing than Sun Tzu Prime. Just from this current perspective. Not to mention that his AoE, Bai Chi's AoE, which is actually in a half circle AoE, is going to actually proc additional things like each target has 30% chance to take extra 15% damage. Of course, Liu Che has 40% march speed reduction built in. The damage upgrade from 2500 damage upgrade to 2400 damage factor in the half circle, I think personally I would prefer over conic AoE that Liu Che has. So for those reasons, I think Bai Qi will be the better pairing for Sun Tzu Prime than Liu Che by a hair. And I cannot for sure, I would say, guarantee that Bai Qi will be better than Liu Che, in my opinion, because their difference, I think, is going to be very, very small. And it might actually just come down to preferences and more consistency. If you want more consistency, Liu Che might be your choice. If you want more gambling and like just high risk, high return, I think Bai Qi will be your choice. But I think Baichu's potential for like spamming those AoE true damage so much is so high that I think Baichu is a better option than Liu Che, in my opinion, personally. Now, Gonzalo's best pairing is going to be Gazamata. So Gazamata just deserves to be here. And for, I think that's it, right? We have Archer March pairing, the best Archer March pairing, best Cavalry March pairing, best Infantry March pairing, and then best Siege March pairing. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Hey, isn't Qin Shi Huang still in the triple S rank? We'll talk about it later, but most likely. We'll talk about it later, but most likely. All right. Now let's go ahead and move on to preseason conquests. I'll just put them in the order that I think is really, really strong. I think CJ is really, really strong. CJ is probably the best commander that you can actually use, aside from YSG, because YSG's usage actually goes beyond preseason conquest. It's actually supposed to be an S tier commander, right? So I'll say CJ. Actually, let's just go ahead and put YSG over here. How about that? So that CJ is actually over here. Preseason conquest only. How about that? I think that makes more sense. CJ is really, really good commander. It's just, I don't think there's anyone who would actually agree against it. I think for the field, I think Tutmos is a really good commander. Cyrus is actually a little bit better than Tutmos, in my opinion, for the open field fighting specifically. Saladin is probably a little bit above Tutmos. I think Charles Martel for open field is worse than Tutmos. Mehmet, the same deal. Minamoto probably below Mehmet. Actually, a little bit above Mehmet. Richard probably at the bottom of this list. Pierce, I think, is pretty good, but a little bit better than Minamoto. Alexander the Great, preseason conquest. Alexander the Great. I think it's better than Saladin. Ethelfled probably at the bottom. Khan technically should be somewhere around here, I think. And then Bertrand. Technically, Bertrand is really good. But you have to find the pairing for him. And because he doesn't really have a good pairing, I think I'll put Bertrand probably around here. Like, you have to actually get yourself a brand new commander just so that you can actually use Bertrand. And that is Takeda Shingen. And I'll just put Takeda Shingen at the bottom. Liu Che, my goat. F Baichu, yo. I would agree with you most of the time, but it is tough, I think. All right, and in terms of like Sun Tzu, I think Sun Tzu is probably right around here. Sun Tzu is probably as good as Mehmet in general, even though he's an epic commander. And everyone else, I just don't recommend that you use for KVK 1 and 2 on the field. Maybe Baibars. Maybe Baibars can be one. Let's go. Let's add Baibars and Kusanagi here. I think Baibars could be around here. Well, in that case, I think Takeda actually deserves to be over there. Kusanagi is a little bit below. I think that's pretty much how I would rank preseason conquest. Now, for those of you who are watching this, probably does not care about preseason conquest too much. If you guys have any questions, just feel free to leave it down in the comment down below. But yeah, let's just fast forward all the preseason conquest, guys, and then move on to the A tier. Now, second best commander alternative right now. Let's just put all the commanders that I think is the second best commander contender. Now, Liu Che is definitely there. Second best commander pairing. I think if you talk about infantry without Liu Che, that is a crime. Infantry, Liu Che. Liu Che is such a good commander. Liu Che has 25% chance to launch extra combo attack. And as a matter of fact, Liu Che is so good that although he does smite damage, one of my best cavalry reports are actually with Arthur Liu Che. I don't know if I have that report somewhere. Is this it? No, this is when I had Achilles. Yeah, Arthur Liu Che, there you go. 369,000 kills. 7.2 million kill point gain in a single. I think this was a altar fight with Arthur Liu Che with artifact, guys. With artifact. Liu Che is so strong of a commander. I understand where people are coming from when they're saying that the Liu Che probably is the best pairing for Sun Tzu Prime and does deserve to be S. The only reason why he's actually all the way down to the A tier is simple, is because the synergy, I think, the Baichi just has slightly better synergy for Sun Tzu Prime. That's just the only reason why I have Liu Che down here. I could be wrong. But just from reading the kit, I think Liu Che just have slightly less synergy with them. I just transitioned outside of KVK 2 and had to decide between Baichi and Liu Che for infantry, knowing Sun Tzu Prime will release soon. I still went with Liu. Hey, I respect that, sir. I respect that. And I think that is a very, very valid decision. And I think you could be right. I could be wrong. This is just what I think based on the information that we have so far. But with that said, yes, Liu Che does deserve the top spot for A tier. I don't think we have any arguments against it. So let's just go ahead and leave it with that. Cavalry gets a little bit interesting here, I think. Now, I would say Cavalry for A tier, I would say, yeah, Kangam Chan is a good commander pairing. Now, would I put David there? I don't think so. I don't think we should put David for us to kind of pair it with Kangam Chan. And in such case, I think having probably Hector might make the most sense. I would just personally say building a second cavalry march right now is just not really the best option in my opinion. And that's just my personal opinion, right? I don't think building a second cavalry march is a good idea right now. Just because like you need to not only get the Delta set that will most likely get replaced by Delta 2.0 that's coming out in the first half of this year, but also at the same time, we just don't have that many AoE combo commanders. We have David, but David is actually supposed to be used for Garrison. Some of his kit does not work, and the fact that some of his kit does not work matters a lot, right? Attila Achilles, Arthur GG, yeah. A lot of people actually use Attila Achilles, Arthur GG. And for that reason, I think we do deserve... I think Attila does deserve to be somewhere around here. But personally speaking, I would not separate Arthur and Achilles. It's just too much that you're missing out. And it is just absurd, in my opinion. If you have to run one cavalry march, I would just run one cavalry march. And still use Ho Chi Bing or Jodobar Prime. That's just my opinion. And that's what I'm doing. I'm using Jodobar Prime with Ho Chi Bing. Just because I don't really want to build a second cavalry march. Do you run 2 cavalry marches on your main? Yeah, I run right now. Well, obviously, there's other factors, right? I don't have GG. Yeah, so I run just this. Arthur Achilles. And then I run Ho Chi Bing and Jodobar Prime still. Because I don't want to transfer this. I don't think it is worth... So here's the thing. I don't think it is worth transferring what you have to Delta to run second cavalry march. You've been consistently negative on Ho Joan. Yeah, I agree with you. 100%. I agree with you 100%. Po Joan is not meta. But just looking at how much damage that my Arthur Achilles does, I was number one in this. Outer fight on the losing side. That's just how powerful Arthur Achilles is. And to think about potentially even separating them is just, I don't think that's a good idea. You know what I mean? I would rather run a one really, really OP successful march and one mediocre, maybe negative march every now and then, in my opinion. And it's not like I didn't invest in my second cavalry, right? Like my main set is like broken. My main set is broken. I get it. I'm a rally lead, right? But like my Ho Chi being set up is actually not bad at all. You guys can see it's almost as good as like other servers rally leads, right? Like younger servers rally leads, right? But like, yeah, I'm not gonna make the effort to transfer over my Ho Chi being setup to make 3 legendary 1 rare set that I can make right now on the second Delta set, just because I don't think it's a good idea for me to separate Arthur Achilles. So that's my personal opinion. But for that reason, I will put Attila in there. I'll put David in there, Hector in there as well. If you guys really, really, really have to run 2 cavalry marches, you have to run what Kevin said. Attila Achilles, Arthur GG, or like some mixture of that. Arthur, Hector, GG Achilles. If you really, really love GG Achilles, I know a lot of people just love GG Achilles. I don't personally recommend that. Personally. Right. And for that reason, because those are the only combinations that we could think of at this moment, and maybe with the exception of Philip in there, because Philip could be a good mixture commander for all those commanders. All rest of the cavalry commanders in 2026 is going to end up in a C tier. Not recommended in 2026. Probably Ho Chi Bing is up there. Yeah, the order is different, but all the other cavalry commanders that are used in the open field, or that used to be used in the open field, are not recommended. Any skill damage commander, not recommended. I do not recommend that you use any skill damage commanders on the field. David, arguable. I'll put David at the top. David, arguable, but everyone else, no bueno. No skill damage commanders in 2025. That's it. That's what I would personally suggest. Will Arthur Philip continue to put up good numbers? No. Arthur Philip, I think we can kind of tell from the most recent video from Omniarch actually went through this, right? So you guys should check out the latest video from Omniarch. The damage output difference between Arthur Achilles and anything else in the cavalry is just crazy, crazy different. I think, if I remember correctly, Arthur Philip dealt total damage of like 11 million, whereas Arthur Achilles did like 17 million. There's no way that I'm running anything that is not Arthur Achilles to break that Arthur Achilles pair. That's my opinion. You're gonna swap Ho out when the new Delta comes out. See what Cavalry gets until then. Yeah, Cavalry is in a weird spot at this moment, I think. Yeah, and that's why I'm still running Ho Arthur. Ho Joan of Arc Prime, right? Ho Joan of Arc Prime is gonna just stay in the field until we have another like really, really strong cavalry, like AoE commander. Or if the Delta 2.0 is so strong that I have to make my current Delta set transfer over to that Delta 2.0, and my and I have to use my second set, which have this like prepared. I have all those prepared where I have the inscription for this actually prepared already. You can see that, yeah, I have Thrasher ready to go. I have the banner inscription ready to go as well. I have 9 of the 8 that you need for you to get the banner inscription, special inscription. And I'm 7 out of 10 for me to get another butterfly effect, right? Until we find out more about the Delta 2.0, until I can make a clear decision, I'm just gonna hold on to these, right? That's my opinion on Cavalry. Now let's go. Now we use so much time on Cavalry. Wait, hold on. Let me go ahead and read what everyone else said. Okay. So you don't run 2 marches on your main? I do. I just told you. I think we already talked about those. You're gonna swap Poe out when the new Delta comes out until and see what Cavalry gets until then. Yeah. Will Arthur Phillip? Yeah, Arthur Phillip is garbage. Don't use it. That's just my opinion. I have a Cav Zenith skin, so I'm forcing myself to go 2 Cavalry, which is fine. And that's why I'm running still our Huo Joan of Arc Prime. I think it's still kind of worse, but it's not optimal. It's gonna trade negative. Mine's trade negative. Yours is gonna trade negative. Everyone else is gonna trade negative. But I'll rather run that until rather than making a really bad mistake. Like conversion stones are just so expensive that if I make one mistake with my armament conversion right now, I'll have to spend like hundreds and hundreds of dollars just to recover. Right? I've done that before. I'm not doing it again. I'm gonna stay with Wedge until I find out more about Delta 2.0 at the very least. Kevin said, assuming I am to use Philip, where would I use you? Recommend? I think so. Here's the thing. I think Philip can be used with Zhuge Liang or Liu Che, right? Now, if you have 2 infantry marches, let's say you're like in my situation. Let's say you're in my situation where I have 4 really strong marches. Like my Arthur Achilles looks absolutely gorgeous. My Bai Chi Liu Che looks really good. Really good. Looks good enough, right? And my Qin Shi Wang YSG looks good enough, right? My 4th March, Ho Chi Bing looks okay. Now, in such case, and you need to add the 2nd infantry, I will put Philip into 2nd infantry, right? And if that means that after Sun Tzu Prime comes in, that you have to use it with Liu Che and Philip, which is a good pairing. Liu Che Philip actually has really good synergy. I would say you can use it with Liu Che Philip. That's why I put Philip still over here in the B tier, because Philip can have so many different combinations that you can use him with. Another pairing that you can do it with is Zhuge Liang. You can use Zhuge Liang with Philip, and then they would just do massive debuff and buffs around people, right? Zhuge Liang Philip works, right? People have tested it. If you actually, especially if you don't want to invest in Hermann Prime, I know that a lot of people are hesitant to invest in Hermann Prime because Hermann Prime is all about creating debuffs that will do more skill damage, right? But no one wants to deal more skill damage at this point, right? So the Hermann Prime, if you don't want to use or invest in the Hermann Prime, I think Philip is a great option. Zhuge Liang Philip works, right? And that is where I would recommend Philip, in my opinion. Liu Che Philip will have no smite tree. Yeah, that is true. Liu Che Philip won't have no smite tree. That is the only downside to it. But because Liu Che has that, so if you look at Liu Che, why I recommend Liu Che so much is because it's the same reason why Alexander the Great is really good with Liu Che. But if you go to infantry, Liu Che's expertise, right? 25% chance to gain 1 extra combo attack on top of getting rage, right? And then if you combine that with Philip, where's leadership? There you go. Philip's thirst 4 skill, the AoE damage factor to up to 3 targets in a fan with 3-second cooldown. This skill will proc like crazy with Liu Che, so that's why. Personally, I think Liu Che Philip does work. But yeah. Shouldn't you run Liu Che, Sun Tzu, Liu Che, and Bai Chu Philip? I would personally run Sun Tzu, Bai Chu, and then William Wallace with Liu Che. Just so that you have that best infantry set on your Bai Chu. Now, you can technically swap those 2 places too, right? You can technically swap Sun Tzu Prime with Liu Che and then Bai Chu with William Wallace. That could be a work, but I think having that best pairing, the off-the-chart pairing, is a little bit more important in my opinion. So that's why I actually put those 2 together first. But those 2 will be an absolutely good and viable pairing that you can use, in my opinion. So that's why I think William Wallace deserves to be here as well. On the B tier. At the very least, the B tier. Technically speaking, Zhuge Liang's pairing, best pairing is most likely going to be Herman Prime at this point. It works well with the fact that Qin Shi Huang, YSG, does a lot of skill damage, right? If you're building 2 Archer Marches, most likely you're going to have to run Zhuge Liang with Philip or Zhuge Liang with Herman Prime. That's it. And anything beyond that, I do not recommend for infantry. So Guan Yu, Scipio Prime, I don't recommend that you use any of those. I know this is tough to say, but Ragnar Prime I think deserves to be right here. Ragnar Prime is a good commander, but I don't think you should use Ragnar Prime in 2025. Same goes with Boudica Prime. Any of the siege commanders that is not Gazamada or Gonzalo is not really that amazing. I would say John is probably up here. Do we even have other commanders? Archimedes. We don't have the other commanders. The Alfonso. Or yeah, we don't have other commanders here. But yeah, I would say this is probably safe enough to say. Shazar actually is probably on the top section over here. Probably not in the bottom section. Sargon, I know that a lot of people said that you could use it with like Arthur, Achilles. We're not talking about. Yeah, it's not really that good. And then we have what's his name? Yeah, Constantine. Yeah, Constantine's not really that good on the field. No way, William Wallace is better than Philip though. I mean, it's really about if you're using William Wallace with Liu Che, or Bai Chu with Liu Che, I think it's really about using 2 pincer sets. It's about using armament sets than anything else, in my opinion. Yeah, it really gets down to if you have like 2 crack pincer set, I would say Liu Che William Wallace is better than having Liu Che with Philip. That's my opinion. Because Liu Che Philip does not do it doesn't do most of its damage with pincer, right? It does use probably like half of the damage, if not less, 40% of the damage. But Liu Che's kit, basically AoE smite damage and the smite damage proc on his 3rd or 4th skill, right? So if you have pincer, it is better that you actually use Liu Che with a pincer commander or smite damage commander. If you don't care, if this is like one of your weakest march and you just want to buff other troops, I think Philip is a better commander pairing. So that's my opinion. Anything else here? I don't think anyone else is really contender for any field fighter. Okay, so I think this is good. Now let's go ahead and change the order. I think David being there is fine. Yeah, they are all okay over here. Yeah, I think this order is fine. Maybe move up. Maybe move up here for the utility that he has. Second best pairing, I would say probably Attila goes down the road. I would say William Wallace moves up here with Philip. Yeah, this maybe better than Herman Prime though. Attila. Liu Che deserves to be in the very top spot in my opinion. I think this is a good order. Preseason or conquest order, I think this is fine. S tier, I would say Bai Chu's better than Arthur. Although that's arguable, I think. I think that's arguable. Bai Chi being better than Arthur. Maybe in duels, but in real life situation. I think Arthur is better as a commander, in my opinion. Not only his damage factor is higher. And not only his damage factor is higher. Right? He has 2800 damage factor that goes out to 3 targets. That is higher than, obviously, 2400 damage factor that smite damage does. Combo attack is just better damage style than smite damage, in my opinion. It both gets scale by normal damage, but combo attack at least procs anything that procs with normal damage. So combo is the best type of damage. So the fact that he does 2000 combo damage is a lot better. On top of that, I think his expertise is crazy. The reason why I like Arthur so much is because this can proc infinitely. This can proc infinitely. And that's why I love Arthur so much. Right? So I think Arthur is a better commander than Bai Chi. In my opinion. Why is she top for preseason conquest, I assume? I was going to put him here. Oh, let's just put him here. Yeah, why not? I was going to put him at the bottom of the S tier because he is the best commander pairing for Qin Shi Huang. But yeah, let's just put it here. Preseason conquest only. This is how we've been doing this before. So let's just go ahead and do that. William Wallace good with Sun Tzu Prime. If you already have him. Otherwise, I would invest, yeah. Yeah. But among the B tier, I think he's pretty good, in my opinion. Why sheer early expertise is basically must-have. Top of preseason conquest, yeah. AJ Slayer said Liu Che, Alex, and Ho Jun. Would you replace one of those with Philip? No, I would personally not. Alex, but only if you got 5 marches, yeah. If you need to like find like the 5th march and you don't really have commander pairing, then obviously Liu Che Alex is good. But I will personally pair Liu Che with Philip rather. Past getting rallied. Oh, yeah. Well, we'll have to get that moving soon. SS tier. SS tier probably the only contender is actually this and this, right? Is Sun Tzu Prime better than Achilles? Or is Achilles better than Sun Tzu Prime? Now, from the look of it personally, I think Sun Tzu Prime is better than Achilles. In my opinion. I know that Achilles does so much utility, so much damage reduction, so much AoE with 10 procs of combo. And I'm a Cavalry main. I would hate to do this. But from the look of his kit, I think Sun Tzu Prime might bring more to the table with potential to proc so much AoE true damage that I think Sun Tzu Prime right now, at this point, does deserve to be better than Achilles. Now, does he deserve to be better than Qin Shi Huang? No. So Qin Shi Huang is the #1 commander in Rise of Kingdoms, unchanged, and this is a new. open field tier list that I have for you. The best open field commander for you to play on Rise of Kingdoms in 2020, at the start of the 2026. January 2026, guys. January 2026. The best open field commanders in Rise of Kingdoms. I think this is it, guys. I think this is it. So, yep. Alright. As a low spender, what march would you go KVK 1? And later, if you start from 0. I saw a low spender. I would still try to expertise YSG. And if you're Archer main, I would say get Tutmos, get him to 5-1-1-1 and use him. If you're Cavalry main, get your Minamoto to however level that you want to get him to. 5-5-1-1 to expertise, whatever it is that works for you is fine. If you're running infantry, if you're low spender, I would say Sun Tzu, YSG will be the best. You still have to get YSG no matter what you do. And then as you enter KVK 2, I would try to expertise Tutmos if possible, or get him as much heads as possible so that you can actually swap Tutmos with Qin Shi Huang for archers. If you're infantry, because you're using Sun Tzu, I'll just go ahead and save up gold heads until Sun Tzu YSG runs out, and then as you enter KVK 3, you don't have to actually even do commander swap. You can just straight to Qin Shi Huang. So Qin Shi Huang YSG is what I recommend. If you have to run one infantry march, you don't really want to use YSG anymore or Qin Shi Huang YSG in Season of Conquest as infantry main, I would say Sun Tzu Prime, get that swapped out to get YSG swapped out to Sun Tzu Prime, and get Baichi. I think Baichi is a safer choice. For Cavalry, I think still the same way. Whatever commander that you're working on, if you're running just Minamoto YSG, that's fine. Just go ahead and save up your gold heads until you get your hands on Qin Shi Huang. Use Qin Shi Huang YSG, but if you have to use Cavalry, and I do not recommend this. I do not recommend that you actually swap out YSG for KVK 3. But if you have to do this, I'll say get yourself commander, get yourself Achilles or Arthur, and then work on the other one. That's what I recommend. I hope second hope or set chess for infantry second march. It really depends on what you are working on, but nowadays set pieces are actually not that bad if you want to work on KVK pieces. So if you're gonna work on KVK pieces, I would say get the set piece, because you can eventually make the field best march for your infantry as well, with 4 pieces of Eternal Empire sets for your infantry, and also at the same time use KVK sets. Alright guys, hope you guys actually enjoyed today's video. I'm not gonna end the stream though. I'm gonna go ahead and continue chatting with you guys, but I'm gonna go ahead and close out the recording for this tier list. Hope you guys enjoyed today's tier list. This is the best tier list for open field meta prediction with Sun Tzu Prime in there in the mix. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you guys did, please go ahead and drop me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, guys. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And as always, guys, I'll see y'all in the next video, guys. Peace!